Good evening, everyone, and welcome to What's Up, Cuz. I'm your host, Jason Palmer, along with my cousin, Lancy Irvin. Hey, Cuz, how are you today?
Man, I'm doing great. How you think I'm feeling? I'm feeling great. I don't know why you all down and acting like that. I mean, it's a great day to me. I don't know. I sent you a text yesterday. I called you and immediately when you picked up the phone, you started laughing like you already knew what I was calling about. I
I did.
don't know. I called you at about what 4:45, maybe 5 o'clock. I don't know. And by the time I said, "What's up, cuz?" I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I think we all know what happened. The Bears are
I
what
don't.
happened. Okay.
I don't know what happened. You're gonna have to help me out. Help me
The
understand what happened.
the Bears are what happened. They just take the life out of you. They just you just don't. You've analyzed and analyzed and analyzed and suggested to the point of exhaustion where you just like, the only reason I'm watching this is because I'm required to do so for my job. It's gotten to that point, Lance.
You're required to do so. Come on, come on. Why? Cindy Irvin, ask your cousin why is he feeling down, Cindy Irvin. You're not required to do so. The Bears put out the best product they could put out there yesterday, right? We had the game. We had the game. I'm not gonna get excited. I'm not gonna get down, but I tell you what, though, me, my nephew Kobe, my nephew Cam, you, Mac, Byron, we could have closed that game out. Hold on to the ball. Just
Yeah,
hold
so
on to the ball.
we needed somebody to close out that game. But I thought about it. It's karma. It's karma, Lance.
Why is it karma? Cause see, there goes Cynthia Irvin down there making her
You
faces.
know why it's
Trying to tell
karma.
you, yeah. Why is it? Why? I'm not talking about those early games during the
You
year.
know
That we
you got
stole.
to.
No,
The
I'm not. I'm not doing that.
The
What?
Bears shouldn't have beat the Detroit Lions the first week they played them. Dude dropped the ball in the end zone, or Detroit would have won. Let's be honest, the game would have been over then. So now here we are some weeks later, the Bears returned the favor. So, in the world, it worked out. Karma, man. Everybody knows a beat.
Jay, all you had to do, first of all, while we dropping back in the pocket, I'm not even gonna talk about that.
Yeah,
Just
let's
hold
let's
on to the
welcome
ball.
let's welcome people to the show first because we got
Go
two
ahead.
hours to be
Go ahead.
disappointed.
Go ahead.
So
Because you laughed
everybody,
at me yesterday.
I
You just
did.
laughed at me. You laughed in my face. I started to hang up the phone on you yesterday.
So, welcome everybody to What's Up, Cuz. I'm your host, Jason Palmer, along with my cousin, the coach, Lance C. Irvin. If you are watching us on the SportsZone Chicago app, we appreciate that. If you're watching us on Facebook Live, please follow us there. If you're watching us on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, we appreciate that. Go ahead and
Yes,
subscribe to
we
the
do.
channel as well. But we really want you to download the app.
App. Come on,
Download
man.
that app. If you want to download that app, you can get it at the iTunes store, you can get it on Google Play, and you can get it at the Amazon store. Go ahead and download that app. We really appreciate it. And you can watch all of our shows, the Humidor Sports Show. We got the Barely Pregame Show. We got all sorts of shows on the app here at SportsZone Chicago. We're always adding more content. And you can always get your updates from what's going on in the world of sports too, right there on your app. So go ahead, download that app for us. But in the meantime,
I gotta ask you a question in the meantime.
yeah.
Why are you wearing that Miami shirt like prime time or somebody playing for Miami? It's not even prime time. I mean,
So the answer
what
to
you
your
work for
question is,
today? What you
as
work
I
for?
was going through my closet to figure out what to wear for the show, I was like, well, I guess I got to pick the only team I got right now that's actually winning. So I picked my Miami Hurricanes because it's all about the U, and they defeated Duke 45-0. We are having a fantastic season, only one loss. We're ranked fifth in the country. We're going to need a little help to get in the college football playoff, but it's the only one of my teams that's absolutely winning. And let's not forget our girl JoJo, who was on the show
Okay,
earlier. She's
okay.
from Miami.
I,
So
I'll
I'm
take it.
representing the city of Miami, and JoJo, and Miami is also my favorite vacation spot within the United States, even though that trip to Hawaii may have knocked Miami down. But right now, Miami is my go-to spot. Now, I love that city.
Okay, okay. Let me know what you represent because I came up with my customized my own jogging line. Urban
Uh-oh.
finest. I got this thing stitched up so nice and so sweet. Michael Irvin, you know how Michael Irvin in charge of getting your name out. Michael
Right,
Irvin was
right.
like, put your name on that thing, buddy. So shout out to my little brother Mike Irvin for getting the old school throwback sweatsuit. I said, you know what? Let me wear a throwback. And think, and Jay, when I put this on, I thought about how our defense used to be dominant. My defense, like we were talking about earlier, my defense probably just tired. Shout out to Ryan for throwing that out there, because boy, we gave up
Yeah,
about 50 plays of 20 yards or more yesterday. But
that's
I'm not
true.
gonna get started on
Well,
that.
I'm not gonna give them that. I don't think they're tired. I just think they have basically just given up. I'm just gonna put it out there.
Oh,
It's
they
the
froze.
Detroit Lions, man. This is Detroit Lions. There's no way you can't stop the Detroit Lions. There's no way your offense shouldn't have put up probably even more points in that game. It's the
Mhm.
Detroit Lions. They have the worst defense in the league almost. Their offense actually is pretty good, but their defense is terrible, man. The Bears should have probably put up a good 40 on them. But hey, when you're the Bears, man. But we got a lot to talk about today on the show. We are going to have a lot of Bears conversation in the 7:30 hour. But let's talk about last week's poll question and the results of the poll question. Remember, we are doing this show in conjunction with the Chicago Crusader Newspaper. And here are the results of last week's poll. After watching the Packers demolish the Bears, what did you do after you turned from the game? And the winning selection was E, other. Other beat out, finishing in second place, cussed, and then cussed some more. Finishing in third was a tie. Swore you are done with them until everyone is fired, or you started hanging your Christmas lights and shoving online. Ironically, nobody spent time with their family, which says a lot about you people out there. But okay, cool. Most people picked other. Other could have meant a whole bunch of stuff. How did you go in the poll last week, Lance?
Told you I went and got some Tylenol with codeine. Oh, my fault. That was at the last night show. I told you I went and played with 7. I went and got my little dog 7, played with 7, and she was looking at me, and I was looking at her like 7. I can't believe my Bears gave this game away. So I just played with 7, but yesterday was Tylenol with codeine. So
Yeah. So it was so bad last week. We don't have an official poll question this week, but you came up with an unofficial poll question. What's the unofficial poll question this week?
man, Jay, like I just said, after watching them lose last night, A, do you get Tylenol with codeine? B, do you just get a beer? Or C, do you get vodka and drink it straight with no ice?
Those are actually pretty good choices right there. After that one, I think if you really, really care, and there are really some true Bears fans out there, people who win or lose, no matter what, they are going to pull for their Bears as hard as they can. For them, the answer is C, vodka. Straight. Because that's definitely what did it for them. There's a number of people who don't care, and then you have that faction who's kind of like me, who you're not pulling against them to lose, but if they lose, you're kind of cool with it because you figure you're going to get a better draft pick. So I'm kind of with that crowd. I'm beyond the Bears. I've been done with them the last couple of weeks in terms of having any hope whatsoever that this team is going to actually look like a professional football team. I'm ready to just back the truck up, fire everyone. As I said last week, go ahead and fire everybody from, the president, Ted Phillips, all the way down to the general manager, head coach, because that is the only way we're going to get closer to a Super Bowl. You got to sometimes go backwards before you can go forward.
But I think, Jay, on a couple of positives, I think the running game was good. I thought the running game was good yesterday. I thought the offense played well enough to win. So you could take some positives out of it. Mitch had probably his best game in a year. So with that being said, we just got to find a way to pull it out. Now, you have to get a win to make yourself feel better. And the win is coming. I'm just going to keep cheering for my Bears. But you win that one, then at least your chances for the playoffs look a lot better.
Well, you go ahead and keep on cheering. I'm gonna keep on watching just because of work and probably recording the games and not watching them live. That way I can at least skip through the commercials and halftime show. Because They are done, and they're not even fun to watch. So, but let's talk about some other topics that happened over the weekend. Let's talk about the basketball game, 1 versus 2. That never happened. We were all set up for Baylor versus Gonzaga in NCAA basketball, the number 1 and number 2 teams, and then we found out that game wasn't going to happen due to a positive COVID-19 test within the Gonzaga basketball program.
I mean, if you read an article prior to that, Jay, they had some COVID cases prior to that also, if you're really reading it. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, I mean, that's what type of year it's going to be. COVID is not going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, you're going to have teams just playing with COVID cases that they don't know of. Then the other teams are getting infected when you play them, and they're going to be out. So this year, like we know, is like no other year. Numbers are steady spiking. Games are being canceled at the drop of a dime. Mm-hmm. So it's truly tough. I mean, just to be able to get the games in that has been played so far is remarkable. And we still gonna miss a ton of games. Like whenever you look at ESPN, the schedule, cancel, postpone, cancel, postpone, cancel. So I mean, that's gonna keep happening, I think. What's your thoughts on it?
I think it's gonna happen throughout the year until we hope no one gets a very serious illness or dies from it. And then I think they may revisit if they want to even continue to try to go down this path, because the schedules are messed up, and I don't care what anybody says, you can't really have a true season and a true champion crowned, because this season has to have an asterisk by it. I said it when baseball did it. I said it when hockey did it. It's an asterisk for me for everybody. I'm not taking anything against the athletes and coaches on those championship teams and doing the stuff that they did. But in my mind, I can't really give anyone full credit for this, because we are dealing with some unprecedented circumstances that we're playing these games under. I feel for a lot of people here. I feel for the people who are losing their income due to this pandemic, the people who work in the stadiums, the parking lot attendants, the food vendors, a lot of people are losing a lot of income over this. And I understand that is why we're trying to play these games, because at least the schools are getting some TV contract money. I get that. This is just, for me as a fan, it's just not the same for me, and I love sports just like everybody else, but it's just not the same for me. But, I applaud anyone who's out there still trying to keep this thing going. I just ask that they take extreme caution, because, every time I hear there's another COVID case, you never know how this thing can go, man. It's about a 1% fatality rate amongst young people, but what happens when that 1% person actually dies? What do we do? It's just kind of scary, man.
And we still don't really know about the side effects after you get COVID. So
right.
That's the scary part to me, the side effects afterward.
And the long term, long-term side effects, what's going to happen, obviously they're concerned about people's heart, the heart muscle, what it's doing to the heart, what it's doing to lungs, what it's doing to some of the senses like tasting and hearing over the long term. It's scary. It's scary. So, when I hear them canceling a game because someone tested positive, first thing, I'm glad they're either canceling or postponing the game to stop the spread. But it's still just a pretty scary situation, man. But, hey, there was still a lot of great basketball games over the weekend for college level, especially on the women's side. Last night I watched the Texas A&M and the Texas game.
Texas A&M is like my favorite women's team other than where I'm working, Chicago. Say shout out to Coach Tiff. But, A&M, Gary Blair, Kelly Bond, that's like my favorite women's college basketball team. We beat Texas, which, I love Texas' new coach. Vic Schaefer is a good friend of mine. So anytime I have the opportunity to watch those guys, I pull for both of them because they've been really good to your cousin over the years, both coaching staffs.
Right.
We're talking about that, Jay, but how is James Harden not showing up for practice?
Hey, man, James is, he's trying to get himself out of Houston by all means necessary, by any means necessary. That man's trying to get out of Houston. And I don't know how he's gonna do it. He can hold out, but once they start finding him, once they start finding you, once they start hitting you in your pockets, now don't get me wrong, Jay's got the cash, he probably float, but I want my money.
James got 42 million reasons in his pocket. I tell you what, how you just hold out of basketball though. I thought I was listening to football or Major League Baseball. I was reading, I said, what? How do we do that? Cuz I mean, I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that out there. See, let you expound on that.
Yeah, I mean, James is, he trying to, deep seven the whole thing. We'll see if this works, man. I hear what he's saying, but James, sometimes it may be you. Maybe people don't want to play with you. Maybe because you don't pass the damn ball. That might be the reason why nobody is coming there. People say, hey, LeBron gonna pass me the ball. I can still be a superstar. Him, Harden ain't gonna give you the ball, man. And I don't know. I don't know what he's thinking, but it's kind of funny.
But Jay, let me say this real quick. Is it his fault he's been allowed to play that way?
That's a good question, actually, Lance. Yeah, I guess you can look at coaches in that aspect, but at the same time, coaches, you get a player that's going to shoot that thing and score. You're going to let him shoot that thing and score. You got to build the right type of personalities around him, which is why I thought, when Houston got Russell Westbrook and put him with Harden, I was like, that's a terrible idea.
I mean, Jay, even Kobe passed the ball 9 then. Hell. I mean, come on, man. Kobe wasn't dribbling around the court 15,000 times. Will Chamberlain, MJ wasn't doing that. I mean, if that's his style, that's his style. But a coach will tell you, man, hey, man, pass the ball now. Keep it moving. So, I mean, if you're going to let him go dribble, I mean, come on now.
Yeah, without a doubt. So let me tell you who we got coming on the show tonight.
Who we have on the show?
Coming on the show tonight, coming up at 6:30, we have Jill Redmond. She is an associate commissioner of the Atlantic 10 Conference. She's going to come on, and Jill is going to talk to us about a lot of things that are going on in sports administration on the NCAA level and how she rose to those ranks in her career. We're going to talk about the Miami Marlins and the big thing that they did a couple of weeks ago when they made the first female general manager of a professional sports franchise here in North America, of a major sports professional league here in North America, when they signed Kimberly Ng, who actually has some ties to Chicago. So Jill's going to talk to us a lot about that and the opportunities for women behind the scenes. Those glass ceilings are getting shattered in 2020, and we got to keep helping that. My homegirl, Swin Cash, I'm going to try to reach out to Swin and get her on the show here in a couple of days. That's my buddy from when I used to cover Chicago Sky. Yeah, that's my buddy, man.
Hey,
Swin,
Jay,
cool, man.
If you get Swin on, like Swin is Swin or to talk that talk. She was a good player. I like Swin.
I like Swin, man. I'm gonna try to get Swin
on me.
Yeah. So we got Jill coming up at 6:30, and at 7:00 we've got your guy Camron Smith, sports journalist himself, and Chicago native. He's gonna come on, and we're gonna talk about all the Chicago sports teams that we can with Camron. We're going to talk about the Bulls, what they're doing. We're going to talk a little bit about the Bears. We're going to talk about the Major League Baseball free agent period and how nobody is signing. Everybody's a free agent. Nobody's signing, which is telling me a whole lot of what's going on with people's money. But okay, we're going to talk with him about that. But right now, let's get to our buddy because he's waiting back in the green room to find out what he's got going on. He is the sports editor of the Chicago Crusader Newspaper, our partner in this endeavor, Joseph Phillips. Joe, what's up, brother?
What's up, cuz?
Man, I'm loving that hat, bro.
I'm loving that hat. With the D Nice hat on, okay.
Yes, Southside, baby. Southside.
Oh, man, D, man.
That's a tribute to my pops.
Okay.
I like that.
Low end finest.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that one, man. You got that nice combo with the sweater. I know your wife usually picks the sweaters, and you add the hat. Y'all make a good team, bro.
Yes, sir.
That's nice. So, Joseph, what you got going on this week in the Chicago Crusader?
Oh, yeah. So I've been doing a few Bulls press conferences leading up to their first game against the Houston Rockets on Friday, December 11th. I know that this week the season preview will be released for the 2020-2021 NBA season. And also, I'll be writing about the Bears again, about the downfall of their season and possible change at the helm. And last but not least, it'll be the University of Illinois basketball team.
Ah, okay. There you go. That's something positive you can write about. The Fighting Illini down there. They lost to Baylor. Man, I watched that game. Baylor's a rough team, though, Joe. I wasn't mad at the Fighting Illini. Baylor rough. Yeah,
I like their physicality, but I noticed that the referees kind of let them play. I saw a lot of fouls in that game. I saw guys getting punched in the face and slammed on the ground. I was like, there's a difference between being physical and then illegally getting away with stuff, So their guards were allowed, and I love hand checking, don't get me wrong. But I saw their guards on a couple of possessions impede their progress with their hands. They led to a lot of breakaway steals. And I kind of thought that they let them get away with it in the last, 10 minutes of the game, and it made the difference in the ball game.
Well, I know Illinois got a big game coming up. Isn't that game when they play Missouri coming up, Lance?
They waiting.
They play Duke tomorrow.
And they play Duke tomorrow. There you go.
Mm-hmm. They play Missouri
it should be a battle. And I know Adam Miller, he finished with 4 points in that game. And I think because, like I said, they were very physical with him. And they didn't allow him to get his shot off. But I saw a lot of fouls on those plays, which the referees never called. They kind of put the whistle up and just let them bang them out old school, like a pickup game,
Have you guys heard of legal fouls?
Legal fouls?
Legal fouls.
Yeah, I've never heard legal fouls. A foul
legal foul. What you had is two elite defensive teams, especially guys from Baylor, and they two physical teams, right?
Yeah.
So with a game like that, if you're a good ref, you tend to not want to get into the way. Now, I'm not saying they wasn't fouling, but with that being said, it was a tough game to probably officiate. And I thought that was a good test for U of I, because now you understand what you need to work on. And it was a good test for Baylor, because Baylor really hasn't played a game. I mean, Baylor maybe played, 2 games, I think. They just had one they were supposed to play Wednesday. They just canceled that game. Gonzaga, they canceled Saturday. So I think that was a good opportunity for both teams to show, hey, what they need to work on and how they're going to look coming up, because their guards are really good. Both.
Their guards are solid. They tough as nails. But like I said, Chicago guards are tough too, and
for sure.
I didn't think they allowed them to play as physical. We were more finesse in that game because I know Ayo was trying to carry the load offensively, and then they got Cockburn into foul trouble.
Yeah,
early,
I was going to say that was the key.
You see what I mean? They kind of took away the physicality, our physical presence, because their big man was catching alley hoops on our heads and running up the floor, but at the same time, he was fouling on the other end. So I was like, well, call it both ways, It was close until till late into the second half. The game was close. It was a seesaw battle, which I wrote about it.
Good. So what about the Bulls, Joseph? Like you said, you was going to the Bulls presence. Talk to Jason about his Bulls, because him and my eyes both lit up. I think the Bulls going to make the playoffs this year. So what's up with the Bulls? Talk to me about the Bulls.
Well, first of all, we got a smart GM in Mark Eversley now. We have a smart executive vice president in Arturas Sorokonis. Then we also have an intelligent, high IQ basketball coach in Billy Donovan. And with that, they are able to implement terminologies, scenarios, series, to teach these guys that actually how to play the game of basketball. Like I heard something very clever from Billy Donovan. He said about Zach LaVine, he says, we don't really need Zach to be that dynamic. He says most of the times we have to depend on him getting us a shot. He said he wants to change that a little bit and start delegate some of that authority to other players, so then we got Mo Cheeks, in the building. And what better, thing you can have in a guard from New York City who is tough as nails and Billy Donovan, and then you got a guard from Chicago who is tough as nails as Mo Cheeks.
Hey,
So you
Joseph,
learn
I was gonna kill you.
Kobe White how to run the offense.
If you didn't talk about my man Mo Cheeks, I was gonna run you up out the show.
Yeah.
I was gonna run you out the show about that New York Fire Department shirt you had on.
Yeah.
I know you understand again. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. You know I'm simple.
Yeah,
I
just love
Mo
that New York Chicago combination on how to run that point guard position. You know, both of them are tough guys, and I think Arturis and Mark Eversley have that black and white relationship, just like Billy Donovan and Mo Cheeks do. So it works well together.
You know, Joe, one of the things I was going to ask you about, you know, as we talk about the Bulls, and you know, there's more excitement around this team this year as opposed to years past, and I think that was because they've done a complete change in leadership. It's not so much that they went out and got a big name and brought in. You know, it's basically the same team you had before, but it just seemed to me as though the fans' outlook on this season, myself included, is completely different than it has been in years past. Is that something that you've noticed as well when you talk to people about this upcoming season with the Bulls?
That's correct. And I'm so excited just to hear some of the guys' comments like today. You know, one cat that I think is very mature, and that's Patrick Williams. I mean, like, he is very mature beyond his years, even how he talks to the press, you know. It's always about the team. It's never about him. He's always looking for guidance and ways to get better. And then he's staying in his lane. He wants to play the role that the coaches allow him to play. And he said he's going to do his best at that. And just as I mentioned a few weeks ago, Spencer Dinwiddie says that when it came to Patrick Williams, that he had no ceiling for his game. The sky's the limit. And Patrick Williams responds and says, hey, it means absolutely nothing if I don't reach my potential, if I don't put the work in. You see what I mean? If I don't go out there and do my job and play both ends of the floor, it means absolutely nothing. And he says, I'm going to work hard at that every day. It wasn't a typical company line. It was straight from his heart.
Nice. He's probably happy that he didn't have to punch in his time card like that last year. I love Patrick Williams. I think Patrick Williams will have an excellent season this year. He's a rookie in this, and he's going to take some lumps. But with that being said, though, I still think with his size, his basketball acumen, he could play. He's physical. He could shoot. He can handle the basketball. I think he's going to have a great year. Time will tell, but I like what he's saying thus far. I think he's going to come in and do the dirty work. I think he's going to do the things that he needs to do to get on the basketball court.
Yes, sir. I totally agree. And most people got them finishing in the 11th spot, probably missing the play-in game, but they can change those. That should be motivation for you to change that, you know. I think it's about Zach LaVine playing with a high basketball IQ, teaching him how to play the game, because he can play, but I don't think he's been taught how to play the game the right way, just knowing when to pass, knowing when to shoot. Even with Kobe White, just learning how to be a better pick and roll type player, you know. So at the end of the day, we should see improvement.
All right. Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. So, Joseph, tell everybody where they can find you and where they can find Chicago Crusader Newspaper.
You guys can visit us at the ChicagoCrusader.com and sports. You can click on sports and you can read all our stories. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us.
All right. Sounds good. That's Joseph Phillips, sports editor for the Chicago Crusader.
Sure.
All right. Coming up next, we're going to have Jill Redmond checking in with us from the Atlantic 10 Conference. Find out what it is she does and what they got going on out there on the East Coast. She's coming up right after this. Stay tuned for more of What's Up, Cuz.
With coronavirus still spreading, people at higher risk must take extra precautions. You're at higher risk if you are over 65 or if you have any serious underlying medical conditions like heart disease, chronic lung disease, diabetes, or if your immune system is compromised for any reason. If you're at higher risk, wash your hands frequently with soap and water for 20 seconds. Avoid touching your face. Disinfect frequently touched objects. And wash up after being in public spaces. And when it comes to social situations, less is better. Stay 6 feet or 2 arm lengths away from other people. Better still, stay home if you can. If you're sick, please stay home and away from others. And if you think you've been exposed to the virus, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. In challenging times, the choices you make are critical. Please visit coronavirus.gov for more information.
Compassion, noun. Sympathetic pity and concern for the sufferings or misfortunes of others. We're all born with it. It's in us. Don't believe me? When you hear a baby cry, something pulls at you. You want to ease that pain. You want to soothe that hurt. No one had to teach you that. It's called compassion, and it's in you. However, at some point you turned it off when it came to me. Me.
The cries of my soul have gone unheard, but today, you will hear me.
My heart has wailed a melody loud enough to shatter your ears and you ignored me. But this week, you will hear me.
This body has beat the drums of anguish, only to be silenced. But this month, you will hear me.
This year,
this decade,
this century,
I will be heard. And
you will be the one to hear me.
And when I am finally heard,
show compassion.
Show compassion.
Show compassion.
Remember, it's in you.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to What's Up, Cuz? I'm your host, Jason Paul, along with my cousin, Lance C. Irvin. And coming up, our first guest in tonight's show. You and her go back a ways, don't you, Lance?
Jill and I go back since I was like, 22? Maybe.
Ooh, we know that's a long time ago.
No, but Jill is not that old. Jill was like much younger. So
okay.
Jill and I go back for a long time. Matter of fact, I used to go running with Jill. She used to have me out there running, and Jill is a great person. Your cousin Mac actually coached basketball with Jill. She was a basketball coach for a couple of years. No, she's very smart. She's a good person. I'm so happy that we could have her on the show, because she was trying to dodge our show, though. Jay, I'll let you ask her when she get on. She's trying to dodge the show.
All right. Well, we're going to find out all that. Ladies and gentlemen, Jill Redmond, she is an associate commissioner at the Atlantic 10 Conference, and she's also a winner of the Nell Jackson Award. We're going to talk to her about that. And one of the things we wanted to do when we started this show was bring people on in a variety of positions in sports. And, one of my things is that, especially when talking to our community, a lot of people don't understand all the jobs that are in the sports industry where you don't have to be on the field or sitting on the bench coaching. There's so many jobs and college and the professional levels of people who behind the scenes who really make this industry work. And she's got one of those jobs and she's in one of those positions. So we asked her to come on and talk to us. You know, she's the Atlantic 10 Senior Associate Commissioner and responsible for NCAA compliance and governance and student services. Let's bring her on, Jill Redmond.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Thank you so much for coming on.
Look,
Thanks
sister,
for
I'm
having me.
doing great since you're on the show. Man. We've been trying to get you for the longest. I am proud of you, Jill. Let me tell you something about Jill, Jay. Like, I'm reading everybody getting these big time jobs, right? So I'm floating through the newspaper and I say, Jill Redmond, Associate Commissioner Atlantic 10. What? So I immediately called her. I went off on her because she didn't tell me. But I'm so proud of you, Jill, and you just don't know. And the whole Irvin family is proud of you.
Likewise, I'm proud of you and happy to be here. Jason, it's great to meet you. Just let me first correct Lance. I would never dodge your show. It is not that at all.
Well, we know you're so busy, Jill, but, tell us about your job and what you do for Atlantic 10, sis.
Yeah, well, so my job now is it's been a little different since March, since the world changed and flipped upside down. But, really it is, and Jason kind of, articulated it well. There is a lot that goes on, behind the scenes and not on the venue or the court or what have you. In my role now, though, it is primarily governance, compliance. When you think governance, it's not just rules, knowing the rules, trying to follow the rules. It really is, there's an entire structure that makes up the NCAA, and it's got presidential bodies or entities and groups with athletic directors and coaches, but it's really it's being knowledgeable and supporting everything that's happening. And it can cover rules that impact our prospects and our student athletes, but then also kind of how many games we play and just everything. So I guess that's the best way that I can explain it in a nutshell, but get to work with a lot of great people at a lot of different schools, and there's never a dull moment. So
I can imagine, especially like you said, this year in March, when the world got completely turned upside down. What has COVID-19 done to your conference in terms of, going all the way back there in March? We were getting ready to start pretty much baseball, softball, a lot of your spring sports seasons, and then everything went kaplooey. At what point were you all at when things started happening? Were you in the middle of your basketball tournaments when it happened?
Yeah, we got our first day in. So we started on a Wednesday and we have 2 games. Mm-hmm. We got through Wednesday. And I will tell you, Wednesday started with a call with our presidents and ADs at 7:00 in the morning. And we had our last call of that day at 8:00. It started at 8:00 that night. Mm-hmm. And by the time we got to the next day, our plan was to still play, but we were not going to let fans in. So on Wednesday, it was a fairly normal day. Mm-hmm. But about 5 minutes before that first game on Thursday tipped, we canceled. So, and then from there, it was, that entire week, I feel like every 2-hour segment of time just was very different. Everybody was in Brooklyn trying to manage, because it was, while we were there with men's basketball, we had other teams that were on the road or getting ready to leave because it kind of aligns with a lot of school spring break. But yeah, everything just really got entirely flipped upside down then. And then each day beyond that in March, it just was trying to manage and figure out what's right, what's the right thing to do. And as soon as we canceled our men's championship, right after that, all of our spring sports who were in season, obviously they got canceled as well. And then it was just about managing and trying to help. It's because it's not only our current student athletes, and it wasn't just sports, because a lot of our campuses send everybody home. And at that time, nobody realized that, the thinking was they were going to be able to come back in a couple weeks or a couple months. Obviously that didn't happen, but at our conference, we have been just trying to just manage the anxiety, manage the decisions, manage the uncertainty. And it is our student athletes. And a big thing, obviously, you all know, they're young people. So we were very concerned with their mental health. So it's not only trying to help them understand and trying to help them stay focused on their academics, it's being able to kind of amplify what we're doing in that realm as well. But then also you've got prospects, and you've got people that are overseas, and parents, just nobody, just not knowing.
Right.
And so this is where, my working in governance came in handy for, I would say, the first 2 months. We had calls daily. I had to update our compliance administrators daily, because there's so many constituents that have so many questions, and everything's a priority, and it was a lot. So at this point, obviously everything that we have to do, it's about it's safety, right?
And Jill, and that was one of the things I really wanted to kind of ask you about, because I think when people look at college athletics, just the general person, the public, they say the NCAA, and they're looking at it like it's just one particular body that's making these decisions. They don't understand it's conferences that are involved in this, and they're presidents who are involved in this. So there's not just this one person or one entity that makes these decisions. Everyone is kind of doing their own thing, similar to like the United States is one country, but each state has a different rule. And I wanted to ask you, what is the A10 doing with their COVID protocol? Because I know each conference is doing something different. Some of the Power Fives, they may be testing every day, but if you're in a really small conference, you may be testing 3 days, 2 days a week. So kind of what are the policies that you all are doing at the A10 for COVID?
Our policies right now, and so I will say we're fortunate. We have a committee that is populated with infectious disease doctors and just experts that I won't get into their credentials, but our testing guidelines are, we use the NCAA's, and when I say this, the NCAA does have a sports science institute that does have guidance and guidelines. And so for the A10, we obviously looked at those. We looked and followed CDC guidelines, and our testing right now minimally is 3 times a week, non-consecutive days at a minimum. But then there's certainly beyond that. Our schools also have to follow, and this is a tough thing. And while all of our conferences, you obviously see some leagues that are doing it every day. Leagues like ours may be baseline 3 times a week. We have schools that are in counties, or they have local jurisdictions that actually have higher requirements, and so our schools actually have to follow those first. And so our guidelines really just they serve as a default for places that don't have more stringent standards. But in terms of our protocols cover absolutely everything. There's documentation that schools have to attest to weekly before every contest, and it covers entering a facility, what can be done while they're there. I mean, they really are expansive, and they're really fluid, and we have to look at them and monitor them pretty much daily.
And Jill, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is that you could talk about some things that the average parent and the average fan we need to know. And one thing you just talked about was the mental health of the student athlete during this period. I don't think we talk about that enough. What sort of things have the Atlantic 10 and some of the other conferences been doing to help the student athlete? I know some can get their extra year back and some of those type things. But can you talk about what things that the governor's body been doing to help the student athlete?
Yeah, I think, well, I can tell you, and I'm pretty proud of this as a league. We happened last year to be working with a pretty renowned sports psychologist, Dr. Joel Fish.
Oh yeah, I know Dr. Fish. Yeah.
Dr. Fish is fantastic, actually.
Yes,
I met Dr. Fish back in the day when I was working at Benedictine University. Before that was way back in the day. So we were really fortunate to have that relationship ongoing. So he helped us really immediately just with some sessions for some of our student athletes. But then we actually did a Stronger Together series. And so for the A10, what we did is we have mental health practitioners on all of our campuses. And so each of our campus, it was a series that lasted about 10 weeks. And so weekly, we had a mental health practitioner that would join. We would basically do a webinar, and it was, again, catered for student athletes. We covered different topics because we knew that there's a grieving process. Nobody knew what was going to happen. Nobody could anticipate it. So it was really good because we were able to talk about resiliency and coping. One of the practitioners that we had talked about nutrition and how nutrition can play into your mental health. So we were really proud of that particular effort. But from the national office standpoint, and we did a little of this as well, really just trying to survey and get a good sense of where our student athletes are, what's causing them the most angst right now. And so at least if kind of knowing and understanding that, you're able to react and try to meet some of those needs. So it's ongoing though. It's truly ongoing. And I think our students, our young people, they are still struggling. So it's talking, making sure that we provide plenty of opportunities for them to kind of weigh in, let us know what their needs are, how they're feeling. But you know what, it really is, it's making sure that they have the experts and the professionals that are accessible to them. Sure. It's really that.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I met Dr. Fish, I met him actually last December at the NCAA volleyball championships. He came and he spoke to our group of volleyball officials, NCAA volleyball officials. And, he's a really good guy. He talked to me a little bit. I know he helped Kobe Bryant throughout his career. He's got a really broad client list. Let me ask you a little bit, Jill, about what's been going on in sports in terms of women being promoted into these positions. Obviously, Kimberly Ng being promoted to the general manager of the Miami Marlins was huge. We got Swin Cash. Swin Cash is doing her role at the New Orleans Pelicans. We're starting to see more women. I'm sorry, the sister now, I think her name is Blake. She's now with the Los Angeles Kings of the NHL. We're starting to see women, and especially Black women, get into some of these positions. Talk a little bit about why that is important, and seeing people like you in positions that you are in for the sisters who are out there.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's important just because there's going to be so many young women coming behind the trailblazers that have really gotten those opportunities. I see it more in my seat than I think others do. Right now, if you look, and this is pretty incredible, there's 32 Division I conferences. There are, before I said this fact, I should have double checked it.
It. Come on, Jilly.
Estimate, Jill.
About a third of them are women, Division I commissioners. I mean, you look 10 years ago, and there was only a handful. Now, there are. I'm fortunate. I work for a trailblazing commissioner, Bernadette McGlade. But why is it important? I mean, it's important because as young girls, young women, they have to know that they can aspire to do and to be anything. The thing that I think we all benefit from and that we need to kind of continue giving back to is being there and pulling up whoever's next. And, you know, I've been fortunate and I've benefited from the mentors, the women who have mentored me. And so I certainly do what I can. You know, it's funny, as I meet just tremendous and amazing young women, I want to make sure they've got my resume, because and I tell them, because, you know, the sky's the limit. They can do absolutely anything that they want. There's also a lot of dynamic programs that really tap into those individuals. And they're so inspirational. And when you see them and hear their stories, I mean, look right now, I mean, the vice president to be incoming. I mean, it's just, it's incredible. So I think it's making sure that we can, you know, raise people up, pull people up, take advantage of programming. There's Women Leaders in College Sports is a new organization. It is, you know, Lance, Brooklyn, she can look at that now. She can join that now. If anybody is trying to just, you know, associations that really provide development opportunities and tips and tools and connections and networking, Women Leaders is just an absolutely fantastic organization.
Without a doubt. I know Gail Dent from the NCAA, and I've talked with Gail a couple of times. I know Gail has really inspired a lot of people. She's really trying to take on the mentorship role. You know, some people have done better than others, you know, following her mentorship. I'm just going to say that. But, you know, Gail is really a person, assistant, a key position with the NCAA. And I know it's one of her missions to help pull people up, as you were just kind of talking about there. For the young women out there who want to kind of follow in your footsteps, I think one of the things they also don't understand is that you don't have to be an athlete to work in athletics. I mean, you all need people like accountants and, you know, computer people, all sorts of people. Can you just talk a little bit about some of the career opportunities that are available for women within the realm of athletics as a whole?
Yeah, well, it's anything and everything. And just for me, as an example, I started as a trainer. I got my MBA. Then I started, you know, there's a role called sports information directors, you know, the people that keep the stats and write the press releases. So and I had never done that before. I did that. Then you get into compliance. There's absolutely everything. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, yes, college athletics is absolutely, it's education, right? They're linked and embedded in the institution. It is a little bit of a business, though. So when you think about a business, you're going to have marketing and PR, finance, business. There's obviously going to be a regulatory element. So that's compliance, fundraising, because you do need those funds to be able to provide different opportunities, coaching, equipment, logistics. Think about events. You know, a Big Ten football game, it's got hundreds of thousands of people there, or tens of thousands maybe. You know, there's a lot that goes into that. So, you know, I think people have to think about their interests, and then I think that they should just try to get some experience. The best advice that I had, and I got it from Mike McCormick, who Lance knows, but as I was thinking about getting into athletic training, you know, I talked to him and he said, hey, well, why don't you just take some time over the summer and, you know, spend some time in the training room or go to the clinic and just make sure that this is really what you want to do. And I tell that to people now when we have interns in the office who, you know, they're not sure, they know they want to do something. And so it's, you know, try it, especially early on in your career. You should try it. But then also don't feel like you get pigeonholed, because I feel like not many people can say that they've been a trainer and an SID and a compliance person. And I mean, there are some things that I haven't done, but I definitely think that if you see it, if you've got interest in it, just give it a shot. There's no reason to say that there's something that you cannot do in this field.
You know what? I'm sitting here laughing at you, Jill, because you actually made Jason perk up a bit. He started name dropping Dr. Fish and Gail Dennis. He was like a bump on the log before you got on.
And you were at the volleyball championship. Was that in Pittsburgh?
It was. It was in Pittsburgh last year. Yeah, and it was supposed to be in Lincoln, Nebraska this year. Obviously, COVID has had something to do with that. So,
yeah,
see,
a little.
Jill, nice sitting there smiling, but let me ask you, Jill. Yeah, whatever, Jason. You don't have to be happy when I get on. But anyway, Jill, get back to serious business. Now, I have two questions for you. The first one, what's the big topic going on today in compliance? Is his name, image, and likeness, or what's one of the big areas that the public need to know about?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it's NIL. You're right. Name, image, likeness. And, you know, our transfer space is about to change pretty significantly. Why did you say it that way?
I missed that. Come on, talk to me, Chill.
Don't tell me you missed it. We're gonna vote. It's this upcoming convention is gonna be big. Not everybody. I'm one of the weird kind of people that I get excited over meetings and those types of things. But the convention is gonna be big. This year's convention, it's the membership is gonna vote on NIL, and so obviously the ability for student athletes to monetize or benefit from their name, image, likeness. And then the membership is going to vote on a uniform transfer proposal that would essentially treat all student athletes the same. It would give everybody that same opportunity to potentially transfer once and be immediately eligible.
You know, both of those could basically change the landscape of how sports are being played now. Huge,
yeah.
And my follow-up, I know we only have a couple of minutes left, but, you know, I always ask people that I really know and love. Who's your favorite Irvin? Because Mac just called me saying you on the show, and Cindy, and I know you helping Brookie. So tell all the Irvins who's your favorite Irvin.
Am I going to get kicked out of the family then? Well, you know, Mac and I fight. I mean, we used to fight like, you know that, like real sibling.
No, but Jill, speaking of that, I mean, what advice would you give to someone like Brookie? Like you mentioned mentorship, and I appreciate you for helping Brooklyn there. I was going to ask you about women leaders in college sports, but what advice would you give like women up and coming?
Yeah, don't let anybody, don't sell yourself short. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't. Don't let yourself tell you that you can't. As young women and as sometimes as older women too, you look at something, you see the criteria, you know, if it's asking you to do 10 things and you need 5 pieces of experience, if a young woman only has 3 or 4, they often like take themselves out. Don't do that. Just, you got to go for it. If it's something that you're passionate about, definitely just give it a try. And I will say internships is a good way to go because, you know, organizations like the A10, we continually are hiring our interns, advancing our interns, making sure that they are finding opportunities.
Nice. I'm just going to ask you one last quick question because I know it's one thing that the public is constantly wondering what's going on. Schools changing conferences happens so often. It's hard to keep up. You know, the Big Ten went from 10 to they got 20 teams now almost. 14, so, you know, 16. What does that do on the college landscape real quick when you got all these schools switching and jumping conferences like that?
Well, it makes it tough to keep up. It's just a part of the business, you know. I think it's understandable as you see different schools moving for geographic reasons or just whatever makes sense for them. But it's a tough question to answer easily. But you know, I would say at this point, when you think about the A10, just remember that the reference, it's qualitative, right? So 10 like perfection, because A10 has 14 schools. So because people ask me like, who's in the A10, and I start listing off schools, and they're like, wait, you got past 10, and it's like, no, you got 14.
Gotcha.
So try not to get hung up on the number.
All right, that's good advice. Good advice. Well, thanks so much, Joe Redmond, everybody, from the Atlantic 10 Conference, which has 14 schools.
Thank you.
Thank you so
It was
much,
great
Joe.
being with you.
All right, you take care. All right. Boy, that was a great interview. Everybody stay back. We got more fun coming up. You're watching What's Up, Cuz.
Hey y'all, this is the grandfather, Tony Allen. Listen up, it's time to be first team all defense against the coronavirus. Here's a few tips. You gotta lay low, stay at home as much as possible, and please stay away from the crowds and gatherings. The more social distance from others, better for all. Even if you don't feel sick, stop the spread and play lockdown defense. Enjoy all that good Memphis restaurant food you want, but please make it takeout or delivery. If you feel sick, do not go to work or the store. And yes, I know you hear this a lot, but wash your hands. We're going to get through this, but we've got to work together like a team to make it happen. For more information on the coronavirus, go www.cdc.gov. And remember, first team all defense.
You see me.
You hear me.
Respect me.
Respect. Due regard for the feelings, wishes, rights, or traditions of others.
We don't have to agree, but I deserve to be heard. I stand my ground. Respect me.
We don't have to be friends, but I deserve your civility. I stand my ground. Respect me.
You don't have to understand my culture, but I deserve to be authentically myself. I stand my ground. Respect me.
I stand in defiance of your need to make me less in order for you to feel adequate.
I stand.
I stand aware that the America that you see and love today is a result of my free labor.
I stand.
I stand knowing that the contempt you have for me was not instigated by me, but perpetuated by the fear you have of me. I stand.
I stand surviving your many attempts to emasculate me. Indeed, I thrive despite it.
I stand realizing that you take many things from me, but I will not allow you to take my respect.
I am a man.
I am a proud man.
I am a proud black man.
I am authentically, undisputedly, unapologetically a proud black man.
I am authentically, undisputedly, unapologetically a proud black man.
I am authentically, undisputably, unapologetically a proud Black man.
Respect me.
I have done more than enough to deserve it, and still you withhold it.
The bill is past due. You owe me.
Respect me.
Respect me.
Respect me.
Welcome back to What's Up, Cuz. I'm your host, Jason Palmer, along with my cousin. He's helping me co-host the show, Lanny Irvin. Cuz, I forgot, we got 2 NFL games going on today. Washington and Pittsburgh are currently playing, and Washington is tied with the Steelers at 17 in the fourth quarter. Our guy, Mike Tomlin, who I think is the best coach in the NFL, man. I love that brother.
The best.
Man, oh man. And coming up, they're going to be kicking off about 10 minutes. We're going to have the Bills and the 49ers. But let's get to our second guest for tonight, because he's a busy man, and he doesn't have a lot of time with us tonight, but he made some time for us. He is a native of Chicago, and this dude is doing all sorts of media stuff. He's been nominated for Emmys before, and he's working with the Madison Square Garden Network and Stadium and just all over the place. We're just going to bring him on. Camron Smith, what's up?
What's up, fellas? How you doing? I'm blessed to be on with you guys.
What up, Cam? Ooh, you a busy man, Cam. You like a Swiss Army knife, boy. You do some of everything. I love you to death, too. What's up, man?
My man, Lance, it's always great to be on with you, man. I got to credit my wife for keeping my head on straight, because if I didn't have her, I don't know where I'd be, man. I'm always moving and doing so many different things, but she keeps me in line and keeps me in check. So
yeah, I know, man. The wives, boy, they are so valuable. Cam, let me just ask you straight out the box. You know, you're so busy and you're covering so much stuff, but how are you able to do this during COVID? Because COVID has affected us journalists as well. People don't know about it. We don't have the same access that we usually have. How has it really affected your job and what you're trying to do this year?
You know what? It's affected it in terms of the stoppage of the season. So you think about the NBA season before everything jumped back off with the bubble down in Orlando. Same thing with Major League Baseball. And, of course, with the NFL, COVID kind of really hit when the NFL was out of season. So for me, it's been more so of really honing in on the relationships that I built over my nearly 15-year career. If I'm trying to do certain interviews with certain athletes, especially on the high school level, with Comcast Sports in Chicago. So we've been able to create a new show called Sports Weekly Conversations, where I sit with some of the more prominent figures, whether they're athletes or head coaches or even athletic directors in the Chicago area. And we talk about different things that have been going on, not even just in the sports world, but also with just the human aspect of what's happening with the Black Lives Matter movement, police brutality against Black people, just hitting on all different avenues and topics that they're comfortable speaking with, because you can't really turn the blind eye to what's going on. And if you are doing that, then you're doing an injustice to yourself and also your family. So I've been able to really keep things going with that aspect, but then also with the good people over at Madison Square Garden Networks, where they have been able to really generate some new show ideas and some new show concepts and some things that are going to drop later on this month. I really can't talk about it, but I'm in a great position to do some things with them. So I've been able to maintain some great relationships with athletes, but also with networks as well, and also Stadium Network in Chicago. So it's good to have the NBA season right on the cusp of starting. So that's good to have that, and also with the NFL and Major League Baseball finishing up, but they're going to get things jump back off in the spring. So you know what? If I had to answer, I would try and give that to every person in our business to make sure that they're staying busy. But it's been, honestly, man, it's been the fortunate card that I've been dealt of having good relationships, but also having God work in my favor, man. I can't really explain it any further than that.
You know what, Cam? One thing I loved about you is that when you cover high school sports, you at the game, you're interacting with the kids, you're talking to everybody, and you understand the game. What makes Chicago basketball different than some of the other cities? I know you working in New York now, so choose your answer wisely.
Well, I know I told you guys I only have so much time, but with that question right there, we might as well go into the rest of the night. Answer, man. Now, when I'm in New York, I'm always riding for Chicago. Anytime that I appear on Madison Square Garden Network, I have a piece of Chicago with me. So whether if I'm rocking Jordan, if I got my mics on, or if I got see, I ain't got those. See, now your closet is a lot deeper than mine.
I know you're a Jordan guy.
I'm a Jordan guy, so I'm gonna be humble right now when I talk about what I got in my closet. I know you go even further than what I got as level to it, man. So if I'm rocking a pair of Jordan 3s or 4s or 1s, I always make sure that I got a piece of Chicago with me. And since we've been doing shows remotely from home, and I'm doing shows for Madison Square Garden Network, even in the clothing that I'm wearing, like I'm wearing a Fat Tigers Workshop hoodie, or I'm wearing a Robotic Minds shirt. And shout out to Kendall Hearns from Robotic Minds and Joe Freshgood from Fat Tiger Workshop, and also King Rello for We All We Got, and also the community-based art movement that he has going there. So I always make sure that I have a piece of Chicago with me so that New York knows that when I'm in the building, that Chicago's with me in the building as well. So to answer your question, Lance, Chicago basketball, man, is something that you hear the cliches of other cities saying that, we live it, we breathe it, we eat it, but it's something different about Chicago. It's ingrained in you. Like, we all have either a brother or a sister or a cousin, an uncle or auntie that all played. And not just play like they were on a team, but they played like they had game. They knew how to play. And so you have those stories that are passed down from generation to generation, like it was in my family, of like the stories of Ben Wilson. My uncle telling me about Ben Wilson when he played in high school, or seeing Michael Jordan, or having my cousin Tony Brown, who's an assistant coach for the Washington Wizards, tell me stories of how Jordan used to eat him up back in the day. So all of that, being exposed to that and going to the old Pro-Am at IIT. Now, Chicago State, I wasn't old enough then to go to Chicago State where the Pro-Am was there. But I was going to IIT when you had Ronnie Fields and Jason Kidd showing up, and Sam Cassell, and of course Antoine Walker and Tim Hardaway, all those guys with Chicago legends playing and representing what the city was. So seeing that and being exposed to that as a kid, you have no choice to either really go hard or not even just play basketball at all. Right. And if you're going to play it, you're going to play it in Chicago style, and that's with heart, that's with integrity, and making sure that you carry a chip on your shoulder wherever if you're playing AAU or out of the city, to let them know that Chicago basketball is real.
Without a doubt. Once again, we're being joined by Camron Smith. He's a Chicago native and an Emmy-nominated sports broadcaster and host. Let me ask you, the Bulls this year, getting ready to start up the season. This year we're talking about the Bulls a little bit more. How big was that change in management for the Bulls?
Before, when they had the old management, and I'm talking about Gar Forman, John Paxson, and I don't even want to bring up this coach's name because it's just like, it's a depressing name to even mention, but I'm going to do it anyway. But Jim Boylan, like anytime I would talk about the Bulls and those guys in leadership, my head would drop. Like I felt like it started raining outside, like there were dark clouds all over my head. But now, since they have a new front office, and who I like to call AK, and that's Arturas Kanishevas, in position, and Mark Eversley, and of course Billy Donovan as head coach, this franchise has some bright lights and some brighter days ahead of themselves. And it's not just because they have fresh faces in, but they have guys that are in position that have found success. When you think about AK and what he built in Denver, and Mark Eversley and the stops that he's been in building those player relationships, not even just in the NBA, but his time at Nike and working with some of the elite athletes that the brand has in Nike. And then you think about Billy Donovan and the success that he had in Florida as a college coach. And of course, yes, he's in the NBA, and college is different than the NBA, but you saw what he was able to get out of that Oklahoma City Thunder squad last year. Nobody had OKC making the playoffs except for OKC, the players and the coaches in that building. Nobody else saw them making the playoffs. But to be able to use Chris Paul, who some people thought was, washed and, didn't have it, he really revitalized his career. And I think you got to give credit to Billy Donovan and how he was able to position Chris Paul to make him a featured guy for that OKC team, among a host of other players that, really aren't household names. Like if you think about that OKC squad, so for them to be able to do that with what they had as a Bulls fan and as a Chicagoan, you have to be excited with what Billy Donovan can do with a Zach LaVine, with a Larry Marketing, and having him remember what basketball is and be the Larry Marketing that we saw when he was a rookie. You have Wendell Carter Jr., you have Kobe White, you have Pat Williams, and that's another subject I know that we'll get into. But these are all essential pieces, young pieces that you can build around, and a coach in Billy Donovan that, one, loves the game, knows what Chicago's about, but then also can maximize the talent that he has on this roster. And that's what we're going to be able to see with this Bulls team. So I'm excited for what they're going to be able to do, not just for this season. This season is going to be more growing pains. And I know we don't want to hear this because it seems like every season is growing pains of the Bulls. But give this team time. Give Billy Donovan a little more time. I know everybody's asking, like, why are we giving them more time? Give them a little more time, because I promise you it will come out in the end where the Bulls will be a playoff contender consistently in the East, and potentially with some moves that they can try and do and bringing in a big-time free agent, a superstar, not just a star, but bringing in a superstar, depending on what they have to give up. The Bulls could really put themselves in a position to be a representative out of the East for the NBA Finals.
You know why I want you on the show, Cam? Because you're real smart. And I'm going to see how smart you are right now.
Okay.
You just broke it down about the Bulls. Break it down about my Bears, because my cousin is laughing at me about the Bears. What's wrong with my Bears? Is it management? I'm not going to talk about the coach because I'm a coach. What's our problem? Do we need better players? Like, what's the problem, Cam?
Well, Lance, we can't let the coach off the hook, man. I mean, as much as the players dictate 90% of what happens in a game, you got to give some percentage to the coach as well. And maybe I'm giving the players too much of a percentage, but I will say 60-40 in terms of player-coach responsibility out there and what happens. But you got to look at Ryan Pace and you have to look at Matt Nagy. These are two guys that, when they were initially brought in, there was, again, as what I mentioned with Arturas Kanusevas and Billy Donovan, there's a lot of anticipation, a lot of energy. Like, yeah, we finally got the guys that we know will be able to turn this thing around. It hasn't been that. Like, it really hasn't. And so you're left scratching your head of wondering, okay, well, if it's not the players on the field, then it has to be the coach and putting them in positions where they're not really able to thrive. And we saw the situation with Nagy taking over offensive coordinator duties, and then he takes that away from himself, and there's still this offense that's in flux, and now the defense isn't looking like one of the best defenses that we've seen in NFL over the past few seasons. So you have to point to management and what the leadership role is of what they're doing or what they're not doing that has this team positioned as one of the worst teams in the NFL. I mean, losing 6 straight games is uncalled for and is unnecessary. Now, if you're going to fire Lovie Smith, who had a winning record,
there you go.
At what, 10-6, I believe? Or what was the record? He was well over 500. If you're going to fire him after the season, then Matt Nagy should have got his walking papers this afternoon. Like, he shouldn't even have a job right now. And I hate to be that person to say that, well, somebody should lose their job. But if you're in the business of professional football and professional sports, then there's a certain code, there's a certain requirement that you have to live up to. And he hasn't lived up to that. Like, you continue to have a franchise swimming in mediocrity in one of the greatest cities in the world, not just the country. And that's just an injustice to the fans of Chicago.
I agree. One last question for you, Cam. As sports are, trying to figure this out with their scheduling and when to start seasons and how they're going to do playoffs. And, I know the NCAA, they're talking about for the basketball tournament, they're going to use a bubble philosophy once they get to the tournament. We've seen the COVID cases exploding all over the place. Hockey, they're in a different type of situation. They're not the biggest revenue generator of those 4 major sports. Have you heard anything in terms of them finalizing when they're going to start the season and what type of season we can expect from hockey?
You know what? I kind of give that power over to my guy, Anson Carter, over at MSG Networks, man, a former longtime NHL player, and does some great work with the network with MSG. But and the conversations with him, man, there's kind of really for them trying to figure out what will work best for the NHL, because you're going to be going up against the NBA.
There you go.
You're going to be going up against the NFL potentially, depending on how long that lasts. And you never know with COVID cases, and we've seen it the past few weeks with how games have been either postponed or rescheduled. So you're not sure how long that NFL season will drag on. But you don't want to compete against these major sports, especially when you think about baseball, because that will take away from your viewership. Viewership takes away from your dollars, and that dollars takes away from how you're able to spread that money out. And we know that money is the controller of everything in this world. So as of right now, I'm not sure on a certain particular date or month of when the NHL will start, but I know they're going to try and find a window where there's going to be a wind down of either the NBA playoffs or the NBA season where they can fit themselves in to get their thing going.
Well, once again, Camron, we appreciate you coming on. We are actually going to reach out to Anson. I got to meet him in Miami, of all places, in Miami. He was down there for the NABJ conference last year. Got to cut it up with him and talk some hockey. So we definitely going to get Anson on. But just, once again, we know you're a real busy guy. Thank you so much just to take some time to come in and do our show, man.
Always. I would love to come back, so let me know. I appreciate being on What's Up, cuz. That's Chicago right there. I love that.
All right, bro. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. He's a great guy, man. Just the amount of guests and people want to come on this show, man. We got a list of people, and we're just trying to get as many people on that we can so that we can give our viewers, the best content that we possibly can. And, Camron, he's a versatile guy, man. He can talk about a lot of sports. I know he had some other responsibilities, so he couldn't stay with us a full half hour, man, but we definitely going to have him back because he's just one of them dudes, man, he can really cut it up, man.
One thing, Jay, he's a great person. And at the end of the day, when you and I talked about putting this thing together, we talked about getting people out there that really understand sports, but they're good people also. And just having him on, just having Jill on a little while ago talking about some administrational things for us. I mean, it's great because when I was growing up, I always say this quite often. All we talked about was maybe coaching or playing in the NBA. Nobody never really, maybe they did, and maybe I just wasn't listening then. Maybe I said, hey, I'm going to try to go to a league somewhere. I'm not listening to none of that. But just exposing our listeners rather than viewers, to things outside of coaching and actual playing in sports. I mean, these some good jobs out here, Jay, and we need to start sitting in more of these seats so we can help write our own ticket.
Well, I mean, think about the guests we've had on. We've had people who are in sports journalism. We've had people who worked in sports administration. We've had people who worked as referees. We're trying to hit this whole sports complex. I call it the sports industrial complex. I'd rather have people involved in that than the prison industrial complex. We have to help our community understand there are opportunities out here in so many different facets. And I know sports is such a big part of our community, but bottom line is your playing day is eventually going to end, even if you're the best, even if you make the professional ranks. There are a lot of professionals after they retire from professional sports, they got to keep living. You said the bill's going to keep coming. That mortgage is going to keep coming. And Lord knows taxes is going to be there every year. So you got to figure out what you're going to do in a way to fit in. And there's so many of these positions in sports, whether it's coaching, whether it's going to administrative side, whether it's going to journalism side. Even in journalism, you don't even have to be on the camera. You can be a super producer like Maya. You could be a cameraman. You could be a sound technician. You could be a lighting person. There's so many different jobs out here in the sports landscape, and we're trying to bring on as many different variety guests as we can for our viewers and for our listeners. So, we appreciate Jill coming on today, and we appreciate Cam coming on today. You and I are going to chop up a lot of topics in the last half hour of the show. Maya will probably jump in as well a little bit.
I need Maya to jump on because I like talking crazy when Maya brings out the best of me when Maya gets on the phone. I'm going to talk Maya up. Bring it on, Maya.
I'm going to bring up a topic. I'm going to bring up a topic. She might jump on, but let's talk a little bit about football. College football. Northwestern clinched their portion of the Big Ten football this past Saturday.
Not Iowa? Did you say Northwestern? Or did you say
I said Northwestern.
Northwestern.
Clinched their portion. But Iowa played Illinois, and the Fighting Illini actually gave them a pretty good run there for a while before, Iowa was able to beat them off and hold them off. But our Big Ten teams here, let's talk about. We talked about Northwestern a little bit. If Ohio State can manage to get another game in, that's probably who they're going to be playing in the Big Ten championship. What do you think about Northwestern football and Pat Fitzgerald?
You know what, Jay? I'm glad you talked about him. Like, he's a coach, I think, I don't know if underrated is the right word for him, But every time I look up, they win. They keep winning. They keep winning. They keep winning. Nothing against Northwestern. I'm shocked he's still there. True, I am. Because, Jay, if you had the success like he had, for instance, if Chris Collins, he's going to win, he'd be up for a payday. Maybe Northwestern could pay like that. Maybe it's not about the money. I don't know.
Oh, they got the money.
But, see, so that's probably why he's still there. Because, Jay, like when whatchamacallum left for Florida State and went to Texas A&M, why am I can't
Jimbo Fisher.
Jimbo.
Yeah.
Jimbo went, he went for $7 million. Pat Fitzgerald, he's been doing a great job, Jay. So, I mean, maybe somebody might call him, but year in and year out, Jay, they've been consistent now. And I'm happy for what they're doing this year. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, it is. It's really good. It's really good for the Chicago sports landscape as well. You know, what Northwestern is doing. And, they go, Ohio State is a different animal. They're like an SEC team playing in the Big Ten. So it's going to be very interesting. But we don't even know if Ohio State going to get there, though.
I was about to ask you, Jay, is it fair? They only played 5 games, and I'm trying to get my man, one of the associate head coach, to come on the show. Is it fair they only played 5 games and they still one of the top 4 teams? Is it fair?
No,
speak up.
No, I mean, it's kind of like what I said at the beginning of the show. I can't really, this season, I'm giving everybody an asterisk whenever they win anything in any sport. Everybody's getting an asterisk from me personally because it's just so crazy. Is it fair? I mean, this the NCAA and the conferences, they make this stuff up as they go a lot of time. It's Ohio State. You know they want Ohio State.
We gonna pull your journalism card. Is it fair? Yes or no? I don't want to hear you up here. Is it? Man, stop dodging the question.
I don't.
Gangster you are.
Okay, it's not fair. It's not fair. But the whole season isn't fair. It's not fair that's happening to the coaches who have to not coach because of this. It's not fair to the players who have to make decisions on, do I want to risk my health or do I want to help promote money for my university? Because that's what it comes down to. Or, for those kids that are on the edge of going pro who need that last season. What? That was one question we did forget to ask Joe. How big is it that everybody got an extra season? It's Ohio State. They're going to do what they're going to do. The NCAA was going to get Ohio State and Alabama in this playoff no matter what. They going to do that now.
Why do you say that? Because it's the Ohio State University. Now, they do have a good team now.
Oh, they do.
They passed the look test. They passed the eyeball test.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to do it because those are money-generating schools, man. They see the TV ratings. They see the TV roll tide. Man, the people down there crazy for Alabama football. Ohio State and Columbus, they ain't got nothing left but the Blue Jackets, and they ain't winning no Stanley Cups. So, they gonna push Ohio State. That's the way it goes, man.
I mean, Jay, you got Ohio State. Notre Dame right there.
Who has their games on their own private network called NBC.
They worth a lot of money.
That's
you
right.
Have Clemson, who Notre Dame plays in the ACC championship game.
Hey, man, don't be counting out my Hurricanes yet, man. Anything can still happen, man.
Hey, your Hurricanes got to jump over Texas A&M too now.
Yeah, that's my wife's school, so I'm kind of in trouble.
Thank you. So choose your word. And what about Florida now? What about their Gators now?
I think the Gators are still on the outside, man. I think Texas A&M would be the team that they would give the shot to even before my Hurricanes. Unless something happens and the Hurricanes can get in that ACC championship game, but they're going to have to win. I don't think we're going to beat Notre Dame. And I don't think we're going to beat Clemson. Clemson already whooped our ass the first time. So, we definitely on the outside. So I'm going to go with Gig'em here. I'm going to try to get my Aggies in. At least my wife can be happy, and your former employer down there in Texas A&M, that's what we're going to go with. Plus, we like their women's basketball program.
Like we just watching the landscape, how this thing is shaking out. I mean, we know right off the bat, Clemson, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Alabama.
That's who they want in. Those are the 4 they want in. Those are the 4 they need to get in. The whole Ohio State thing, though, they reaching to get them in. They reaching like Please.
Let me ask you this question. What if Notre Dame beats Clemson for a second time? Then can Miami or Florida move up?
They'll put Texas A&M in. They're going to put Texas A&M in that spot. I think they'll put Texas in, yeah. I think Texas A&M Stadium, I learned a lot about that school because of my wife. They hold like 110,000 people, man.
Hey, Jay, Bricky and I used to go to the tailgate parties, and we used to go inside the stadium to the booster functions, and we used to then they had a big old room where you could just eat. And Brooklyn was about 5. Brooklyn eyes used to like, Daddy, listen, she be hitting me. Daddy, we need to go to the room over there. Come on, champ. She's like, ooh, this real football. To this day, if she doesn't see a big stadium, she's like, this is not real football.
I heard that.
Real football when I was little.
Well, we're going to take our last break of the show, and then we're going to come back and we're going to chop up some more topics. We're going to get into the Bears and people attacking my fellow referees. We're right back. Oh, what's up, cuz? Stay tuned.
African Americans here and across the country are contracting coronavirus at higher rates than others. People of color and those with underlying health conditions such as heart disease, diabetes, and asthma are being hit hard. Please protect yourself and your family. Wash your hands often. Clean and disinfect frequently touched items. Wear a cloth face covering in public places like the grocery store where it's hard to social distance. More importantly, stay at home as much as possible. Your safety and the safety of our community depends on it.
See me. See me.
See me. See my dark skin and my kinky hair.
See me. Don't see past me.
Don't see through me.
See me.
See my tan skin and my curly hair.
See me.
Don't see past me.
Don't see through me.
See me.
See my face, wet with tears from years of oppression.
See my hands, weathered and worn from decades of pulling myself up through your society.
See my feet, split from centuries of walking your delicate line.
See me.
See me.
See me.
I'm tired.
I'm tired.
I'm tired.
Welcome back to What's Up, Cuz. I'm Jason Paul, along with my cousin, the coach, Lance C. Irvin. Boy, we having a good show, man. A lot of fun stuff, man. We're chopping up some stuff, and now we got to get into the silly stuff.
Wow, what you got now? What's the silly stuff? What's the silly stuff?
So, I knew this was going to happen. It's one of the reasons why I was against it. People say, oh, no, it was entertainment. We need it. One man almost got killed because he should have never been there. But the latest news is former heavyweight champion Buster Douglas is open to fighting Mike Tyson again. This comes after Mike Tyson. This comes after Mike Tyson's fight last weekend against Roy Jones Jr., the exhibition fight. Someone asked Buster Douglas, I don't know how they found him, but Buster Douglas, hey, would you want to fight Mike Tyson again? Now, he beat Mike Tyson in one of the most shocking upsets in the history of boxing. My thing is, dude, you won. Stop. What are you doing? Stop. You won. You pulled the biggest upset in boxing history, arguably. You've won. You've cashed in on it. Run. Don't challenge Mike Tyson again. But Buster Douglas said he is now open to fighting Mike Tyson again if he wants to do it. What are your general thoughts on Buster Douglas wanting to fight Mike Tyson again?
You know what my general thoughts are? Does Buster is he just trying to get some money? Sir, what is Buster really thinking about? Like, are we serious? Like, who actually watched that?
People will pay for this, Lance. People don't. Now that question I can answer for you. They will pay for this.
We just saw Mike grab and hold him and Weston Cobb just grabbing each other and holding each other and ducking and dodging Roy Jones. I mean, Jay, you'll pay for that?
I know me? No, hell no. They're like in a dime.
I'm not watching Buster and Mike. Why?
Because this is where boxing has become. I mean, remember when we were growing up, boxing was, it was must-watch TV on HBO.
Hagler Hearns.
Right, Hagler Hearns, man.
Ali Frazier.
Exactly. It was, it was must-watch when you had a Friday night. If it was one of them big fights, you watch it on HBO. And, if you didn't have HBO, that was all right. You went to your friend's house who had it. Or you called the illegal cable man who came and hooked it up for you for the fight. Pay a crackhead, he climbed the pole. We know how that worked. But boxing now, they don't have no stars. They don't have a lot of younger stars. And I know we're going to get your guy, Montel Griffin, here on the show to talk about this. But, this is ridiculous, man. We got 50-plus dudes out here wanting to box again, Lance.
That's, Jay, like, that's a shame there. Seriously. Like, Earl Spence just fought. That's a good boxer. Bud Crawford, good quality boxer. Like, are we talking about we don't have enough in the heavyweight division? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, I think the heavyweight division, everybody used to know who the heavyweight champion of the world was. You knew, okay, that's the heavyweight champion of the world. Well, now they got 4 or 5 different categories, and it's like 3 or 4 different heavyweight champions. I don't know who the heavyweight champion of the world is, and I'm a sports journalist.
Who knows? Seriously, the stuff, if we talking about Douglas Tyson, that's a shame, Jay. I'm not trying, no offense, if they want to fight, go ahead and fight. But like you said, it should be some young stars that we talking about.
Right.
Like when Floyd was fighting, everybody was like, okay, here come Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
Pacquiao, okay, we got one.
Yep.
Even like when you had like Roy Tarver and those guys. Antonio Tarver. That was like, because I love me some boxing. I went to watch that man Bud Crawford fight in Vegas a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That right jab is a monster.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bit bigger than I thought he was. But with that being said, I'm a huge boxing fan. Like, why do I want to see that?
Well, and one of the things that the boxing people say is that, what's happened is that now many of the elite athletes who would have went into boxing are now going into other sports because, well, boxing, nobody wants to get their brains beaten in if they don't have to for the money. Boxing used to pay some really big prize money, but now that you've seen that all these other sports have increased their pay, and, people are saying, well, I'm not going to take that risk. Now, it's still, boxing is still gritty, and a lot of street guys who don't have a lot of options are still kind of, maybe into it, but you're missing that athleticism part that was there with a lot of the guys. So, that's what's going on in boxing. But, hey, I got to get to some breaking news.
What's that?
Big time breaking news from the NFL. Definitely did not see this coming. In the NFL, we got a final score. Washington 23, Pittsburgh 17. The Steelers, their first loss of the season, they lose to Washington.
You sure? Let me double check. You making that up?
I'm not making it up. They just lost to the Washington no-name mascot because the other one was racist. So the Washington NFL franchise has beaten the Pittsburgh Steelers 23-17. Your thoughts?
Let me ask you this though. Some coaches say, well, it's good to lose the game before the playoffs. What's your theory on that? Is that a good loss for them?
I think with younger teams, whether you talk about high school teams, definitely. You're on the college level, you know that better than me. I've heard college coaches say it. When you get to the pro ranks, man, ain't nobody trying to hear all that. And, we're real mad because now them fools down in Miami, the Dolphins, them 72 Dolphins, they popping their bottles of champagne again.
Pop.
They're the only ones that went undefeated. And granted, it was 12-0 back then. It wasn't 16-0. But, they still the only team that's went undefeated. And the Steelers lose to Washington, man. Oh, man. And I know people lost money on that game.
Jay, that right there, that's tough. I love me some Mike Tomlin, too. Like, ooh, boy, that.
Oh, there's Maya. What's up, Maya?
But what's interesting about Washington, if you've been paying attention like the last 2 weeks, so Alex Smith is back in the quarterback position.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that game against Dallas?
I did not.
I missed that.
Okay, so Washington has been moving the ball. I want to say in that game against Dallas, they put up like 45 points.
Oh, but Dallas letting everybody score.
But I'm just saying, but Alex Smith is healthy. He's back. They have a competent quarterback back there. Again, imagine what the Bears would look like with Alex Smith. Matter of fact, we could say that about every quarterback that's doing something right now. Imagine what the Bears would look like if they had Alex Smith.
So Maya, let me ask you this. Talking about quarterbacks, I've been watching Miami, right? And do y'all think they should have inserted Tua the way they did? Miami Dolphins. They inserted Tua, and what's his name was having a great year back there too.
Well, I think you draft somebody that high, you got to play them. We talked about that before on the show, the politics of draft picks.
And that's the thing. Whenever you see someone like that get drafted, what game was I just watching? Oh, so we're talking about the Eagles and the struggles with Wentz, and his heir apparent is there. They didn't draft that kid without the expectation that he was going to play. Let's be honest. So that was the same thing about Tua. Now, granted, the conversation was they were going to look for certain packages of the right situations to kind of put him in. So, I mean, ask yourself a question. What do they have to lose by not putting him in?
Great point.
I mean, if you want your future quarterback to get his snaps and you see this season is going nowhere, why wouldn't you go ahead and just give him the reins and let him get that game time experience for next year?
But you just said it like when we talking about the Eagles, though. I mean, if you gonna let Wentz play, then let him play. Well, don't pull him out for a series. Then, I mean, what good is that doing?
I mean, I think it's odd when they do that, but
I hate that.
I mean, I don't like that either. I was like, that to me, that messes with the whole continuity of what we're doing. But, the thing that's interesting about Carson Wentz, and people are so on the fence about it, he really hasn't played at that level since that 2018 season that we saw him and he went out in Foles. So, technically he didn't win a Super Bowl.
Right.
But yet he gets credit for that. I'm like, he played really well and he's part of the reason they got there. But Foles had to be able to finish, which he was able to do there, just nowhere else, obviously. But he also worked well in their system. But now he's struggling to play back at that same level, and it's interesting that he's not making the necessary adjustments for them to be able to win. And mind you, there's some issues like with, receiving core injuries. I get all that plays into it. But here's the thing. Some teams are still winning every single week despite having injuries.
That's
like
true.
Pittsburgh did last year. They had injuries, and Tomlin still found a way to get some wins also.
He did. And, that's why it's so shocking to see that they've lost. But in all fairness to Pittsburgh, they last played on Wednesday of last week, remember? Because they were the team that had their game pushed back from the Ravens from Thanksgiving, pushed back 6 entire days.
He said they shouldn't have played.
Right. And now they've come back 5 days later.
Tough.
Well, I'm going to say that's probably why they lost to Washington tonight. Mike Tomlin's probably not going to want to hear that. But, I do think, there's a level of attrition here with these guys. They're not machines out there. And, you keep putting people in these type of positions, this is what we're going to see. So, it's very interesting. But, yeah, that's our breaking news here. Washington beats the Steelers. Steelers are no longer undefeated. That means that we only have who? The Kansas City Chiefs?
No, they lost already.
They got lost? Okay. So that was it. The Steelers were the last.
But you know what? The team you least expect to beat you, isn't this how this always plays out?
Yeah.
Is the team that beats you, because the expectation is that it's not going to happen. How many times does it play out this way? Like I said, when I saw the Redskins, I almost call them the Redskins. I'm used to calling them that. Right. Washington's football team. When I saw them against, don't get me wrong, and I get the Cowboys are not that good, but I was like, wow, Washington is kind of starting to get some momentum, and having Alex Smith back there is a huge difference. He's a veteran quarterback, and you can tell the difference with him back there playing. So that was part of the danger of coming into this game. And you're right, that off time in between wasn't helpful. And I can just tell you something. I was kind of watching back and forth. Even though Mike Tomlin has a mask over his face, his eyes was letting you know, but he wasn't feeling it. He looked like he was about to straight snap off. I was like, ooh. And that's just his eyes. That was it. But, here's the thing. You've got that off your plate. Keep moving forward.
Right.
I mean, you have something bigger to play for than just being undefeated.
Right. Right.
I think the thing we know about Pittsburgh is their defense. They show up to play all of the time. So with that being said, at least they have something that they're known for. And Tomlin is, like you said, Jay, I think he's the best coach in the NFL. Kind of like you said, day in and day out, they perform.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, and I get it. Belichick has got the rings or whatever, but Belichick also benefited from having arguably the greatest quarterback of all time on his team.
Right.
And now that he's gone in Tampa Bay, they looking real regular right about now, even though they beat the snot.
Yeah, but you know what? But I'd have to say the same thing about Tampa Bay. They're not looking exceptional.
Oh, I agree.
With Tom Brady. The thing about the Patriots, it was never just about Brady to me, because if you watch the Patriots for decades, they've always been a contender, whether it was Bledsoe, even when Brady went out and Garoppolo had to fill in. The thing that makes New England so unique is the fact that they are a team that their scouting is amazing, and they don't draft based on who is the hot individual coming out of college. I know it sounds cliche, but they're system based. They look for individuals that can fit into their system and thrive. Think about it. How many times have you seen a player you've never heard of and they get to New England and you're like, who's this? True. They found Tom Brady because that's what they do. They're good at it. So this is the first time that they've had to make this shift, and Cam was a gamble. I mean, but with Brady not being there, if Brady's everything, if he's the greatest quarterback of all time, then he's in Tampa Bay lighting it up, and he's not.
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying.
He's at the end of the career though.
But I'm not saying, let's not make excuses. I'm not saying he's not good. I'm not saying I look at Drew Brees every week and I know, okay, first Drew Brees was washed up and he's done. Oh, wait, but here comes the Saints. Because that makes it interesting to people to create all this hype.
Sure.
And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Tom Brady is not good. I'm not saying that.
Yep.
He's just not the greatest of all time.
I said arguably. I did say arguably.
Now, there's sometimes you can say that about people, like if you said that about Michael Phelps, I'd be like, yep. You could say that about Simone Biles. Yep. But I get to Brady and I'm like, because the thing is, we believe that hardware becomes indicative of how good you are. Think about it. You could be a stellar quarterback and end up on the wrong team your entire career.
Dan Marino.
I was just about to say Dan Marino. And his legacy is now and we know that Dan Marino was a good quarterback.
Yeah.
So the hardware piece, we use that as a measuring stick, but I don't always feel that's the case.
Yeah, I agree with you, because oftentimes when you're talking about who's the best, the first thing people want to say is how many
ships did he get?
Yeah,
and that shouldn't be. I mean, and I know you have to use some measurables, like you said, Maya. I get all that. Kind of like Charles Barkley, he doesn't have a ring, but I thought Charles was a very good player. But I understand why they try to bring rings into it. But like you said, Maya, what if I just happened to be on the wrong team and I just didn't want to leave a franchise, and I stayed there and I played my ass off, and I just didn't win one?
I mean, let's be honest. We just said this about, and actually what happened to the Steelers is exactly what happened to the Bears. Everyone thought the Bears were set up to win that game. It was like the last, 2 to 3 minutes? And actually, I don't even put that on Mitch 100% because the pocket collapsed. You know what I mean? Really quickly.
The dude made a play.
And because that is one of the better games I've seen him play. That's why I won't crucify him. I'm like, no, he actually played really well. That play just happened at the wrong time in the game. That's just unfortunate. Now, I will say Robinson not knowing exactly where the first down marker is a problem. Things of that nature, that's a problem when you got the ball back, but that's where they're there. But Stafford's a good example of that. If Matt Stafford does not leave Detroit, he's crazy, because the guy is actually talented.
He is.
But he'll never get to where he needs to be as long as he stays in Detroit.
I agree. Well, and one other thing about the Bears game yesterday, Lance, that I noticed that we did not talk about, because he's been so good all year. Our kicker missed an extra point.
I'm not even mad at him because he's been doing his job all year.
Exactly. And that's what I was saying. He's been doing his job all year, but he missed the extra point. But when you think about it, that last drive in the fourth quarter, instead of you being down four, you could have been down 3.
I get it. But you know what? They couldn't even get to the point to get in field because they made dumb mistakes after they got the ball back. I mean, so it's just. But I'm like, if you go around the league and just look at quarterbacks, there's some people, like somebody made a comment with how bad the Cowboys look. Does this make it? Does it give Dak Prescott more value? I said, no, he still sucks. What? I'm not, that's mean. He doesn't suck, but he's not as good as everybody wants him to be. You know what I mean? And you give anybody a decent O-line, and let's be honest, you relatively can play well. So I don't think because they're tanking that it plays out that he's great. No, he's not. He's an average quarterback. He's not Mahomes. He's not Watson. Hell, he ain't even Baker Mayfield. And Baker Mayfield, it's finally coming together in Cleveland. See, if you're a Bears fan, this is why you should be upset. You should look at Cleveland and be like, how are we not ahead of the curve before Cleveland? How are the Bills better than us? For God's sakes, how are the Giants better than us? That's why you should be mad. Because obviously those organizations are doing something that yours isn't.
Okay.
What that is, I have no idea.
But talking about Dallas, though, I kind of like Dak. Maya, you don't think Dak is he? I know he's not the top tier. I know he's not in the first 5. We're talking about quarterbacks. I get Aaron Rodgers and Drew.
He's middle of the pack. He's middle of the pack.
Is he 10? Is he in the top 10? Would you call him top 10?
What do I put him in the top 10 for? What has he done? I mean,
I agree with Maya.
All he's done is play for the Cowboys.
They haven't made the playoffs like that.
So why, he was Romo's heir apparent, but let's be honest, he's done no better than Tony Romo technically did better. So why would we put him in a top tier? He's a middle of the pack, mediocre quarterback.
Especially when he has a legit running back in his.
And he didn't do nothing the last game. I think, And you talk about another arguable person we'll talk about when he retires is Aaron Rodgers may never leave Green Bay. Mm-hmm. But Green Bay will probably never win another Super Bowl. I know Packer fans are going to cringe when I say that. They'll always be in it like they've been every single year. They're in it. But they're probably never going to win another Super Bowl. So I'll tell you something. I would put Aaron Rodgers before I would put Tom Brady.
Really?
Yes, because Aaron Rodgers has some intangibles in his skill set that I don't care what team you put him on. Peyton Manning was the same way. You could plot them anywhere around the NFL, and they're adaptable to the system. The bottom line is that I watch him. He's smart. He does things like he watches the other team to make sure all the men aren't off the field, and he does a play. He does things that his football IQ is like off the chain. And I hate Aaron Rodgers. I think he's an arse. I think he's a full-blown arse to me. But I respect his game. His football IQ is off the freaking chain. You got to respect it. You move him anywhere.
I don't mind, but let me ask you this about Aaron Rodgers, though. Like yesterday, they was up. It was like 30-16 with about a minute 30 left, right? When do you let the young fella come in and get him some reps?
No.
Aaron Rodgers is like, no, I'm finishing this game up. I'm not moving out the way.
Well, remember, Lance, you gotta remember, Aaron Rodgers was upset when they drafted the dude.
Yeah, right.
He was on it. What y'all trying to say?
I get that, but what if Aaron gets hurt? I'm just saying, the young fella
that's his selfishness. That's his arrogance. He does think everything is the Rodgers rate. I just want you to know that. He believes that. But as an organization, and I'm going to say this: the only reason that Matt LaFleur actually looks amazing is because of Aaron Rodgers. He has a seasoned quarterback that understands how to run an offense. He can read a defense, so he doesn't have all the same stressors. They had to figure out how to coexist, if nothing else.
And they figured it out.
You're right, because they win. And so if you LaFleur, you're like, what am I going to argue about? You know what I'm saying? I got to make sure everything else just rolls the way that it should roll.
You know what that's called? Y'all know what we call that? Coaching. Smart coaching.
I mean, but it's not a bad problem to have someone like the likes of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, because you see what every single year they dominate the division, regardless to how great the Bears defense is. The Bears just can't seem to figure it out offensively. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting. And the one thing that was their calling card, at least offensively, was that we've always been a running team. Well, then somebody decided they wanted to shift the identity and becoming pass first like the rest of the NFL, which I'm not saying you shouldn't pass the ball. There has to be balance to it.
Yes,
but did you see how good Montgomery looked in that game?
Yeah.
I said I thought he was having a great game.
I also think that a lot of that was because Detroit's defense is absolutely awful. But
I mean,
I don't care.
But he
Jay
was
pros.
But I do believe he still has the ability to do that with even good teams. And the thing is, and then you stretch the field. It's like, I'm going to tell you something. I like what I saw Bill Lazor doing. It probably should have started at the beginning of the year. Because remember, this is probably the first game, I would say, that they probably really had time to learn his packages. Because when he got inserted, they were still doing some of the Nagy stuff. And I felt like I was not seeing very Nagy-like football when I watched that game. Think about it. The Bears put up 30 points. Think about that.
They hadn't done that in a while.
Don't get me wrong. I know it's a weak defense. But here's the thing, though. But you should be able to do that against a weak defense. You should be able to. It was a good run pass mix. I like the play calling. I mean, they did a lot of things right, and they were doing Z pattern, everything. Stuff that you just weren't seeing Nagy do. So I'm like, even though it's the 6th loss and it's bad, I will tell you the silver lining, if you have to have one, is they're actually moving forward offensively. Now, granted, it might be too late. But to be honest, I kind of felt this was good for Mitch, if you want to know the truth.
He needed something good to happen.
Now, I'm not trying to say we're trying to keep him. It might be cheaper to keep him. But
for his confidence sake.
No, here's the thing. He you know what? He might be here next year because simply the fact we can't bank on the fact that we're going to draft unless we get Trevor Lawrence. And by the way, Notre Dame is not beating Clemson twice because they could barely beat him the first time without him.
Right, that's true.
They had to go into overtime to make that happen. You know what?
Major things happen.
I'm going to tell you something.
What?
The one team I hate with a passion.
Notre Dame.
Oh, you have no idea how much I hate them.
Well, you know I do. Look what I'm wearing.
I mean, because where I'm from is like Notre Dame country. It's like Rudy was from here.
Right.
Oh my God. So Notre Dame always goes to the Catholic schools and recruit. So Joliet Catholic was so they just, everyone here thinks that Notre Dame is like the best thing. I'm like, half y'all mugs ain't even alumni. Shut up. It's just awful. So I hate the fact that they're ranked second because I think that's bogus because you know what happens? Every time they get against a real team, they get eaten up.
They do.
Every single time. I'm like, so why do we keep – because you know what? And you said it, Jason. They're good for college football. They draw people. People want to see that. Even if they get pummeled, and they get pummeled every single – Clemson's going to make them look ridiculously stupid. And I'm going to love every single moment of it.
You don't think it's going to be a close game, Mike?
I think it'll be interesting. But Clemson, trust me, Trevor Lawrence he wanted to play so bad. They moved up in ranking, but it really wasn't fair because you weren't playing the best version of Clemson and they almost still beat you.
Yeah. It's kind of like what I said. I think those are the ones they want. I think if someone has a misstep, Texas A&M will get in. They're cool with that because Texas A&M has got a huge alumni base and following as well. The NCAA is losing a lot of money. They're going to get the teams that can bring them the most amount of money possible in these things. So whoever's the best swimming team, that's what they're going to put in. Whoever's the best field hockey team, that's what they're going to put.
Ohio State is going to be there because there were people that had issues with Ohio State even playing because technically they didn't meet the quarantine requirements. Right. I said, here's the thing that we don't know. The actual reported data of COVID versus the day they told the general public.
Right.
We don't know that discrepancy. So they may have actually hit it. Who knows? But they're going to be in it because there's no way the NCAA is not going to have them in it.
I agree.
Because they are the big team. They're the cream of the crop, top.
Yep.
Like you said it. I say it all the time. They're an SEC team in the Big Ten. I said it all the time.
So we got 2 minutes left in the show. I'm gonna throw this one question out because everybody here is a White Sox fan. So I'm gonna ask you all real quick. Kyle Schwarber got released by the Cubs last week. White Sox Twitter, some people went crazy. Okay, let's go get Schwarber. Make him our DH. What are your thoughts? Lance, we'll start with you.
I don't think that's the answer. I really don't. I didn't think he had a great year this year, Jake. So I don't think he's the answer. I'm not excited over him. What you think? I mean,
all right, Maya.
For me, the DH position is the least of my worries. They were able to kind of platoon it really well and give rest to individuals and still get production out of it, so to speak. So that doesn't have to happen. Though I do believe that Schwarber is truly an AL player. I think he would thrive. And I think he could be a good DH. He's an excellent hitter. I'll give it to him. Not a great year last year, but the Cubs had issues last year. It wasn't just him. So I'm not going to say, but no, he's a good hitter. But I don't want him to be like, what was his name? Adam
Dunn.
the swamp donkey, we can't have it. He got here, and everything about sabermetrics said he was supposed to be amazing, and it was awful. So no, I need to focus on pitching.
Okay.
So the DH for me is not where it's at right now. Not for
All
me.
right. I'm going to vote no on this as well. I'm going to give him a thumbs down. I don't want him on the south side. I think the problem with the White Sox last year was that they had too many damn DHs and nobody in right field. So I want a legitimate right fielder on the White Sox, and I want pitching just like Maya. I think we can do that. We can be talking about the White Sox getting the World Series, and the coaching staff has already put it out there. World Series.
First of all, we gotta make sure the manager can make it to the stadium.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, we've hit the 2-hour mark, which means we are at the end of our show. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to What's Up, Cuz. Make sure you join us next week at 6 o'clock as we're going to do our NBA basketball preview. And we're going to talk some more about college sports, and who knows? It's us. The Bears are playing, so that's probably going to take up more time, too. But on behalf of my co-host, the coach Lancy Irvin, and our super producer, my Kai, we thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Keep wearing those masks and social distancing. We'll see you soon. Peace.
Peace.